January 18th, 2026. This is the NI versus AI podcast. I'm your host, Charles Linhart, and I know I promised you all an episode about energy writ large with some specific ideas on that topic, and I'm still formulating that in my head, but I do have something to say today, sort of off the cuff. As I've said before, I hate traveling, but I do like going places, and unfortunately, you have to travel to go places. So last night, boy, that was one of the more intense travel experiences I ever had. I think I basically went through a wormhole, and it was intense. I'm in Miraflores, Lima, Peru, which is a different world from Medellin, Colombia. I mean, it's really something. But getting here, oh man, was that wild. So my first impression was, this place is really strict, because the lady at immigration's kind of put my balls in a vice. I was really annoyed. I broke one of my own personal kind of rules about traveling, which is, if you're going to a new city, especially in a new country, generally speaking, don't arrive there after dark. I always try to, if I haven't been someplace before, I like to arrive during the daytime. And the reason for that is, bad people come out after dark, and, it's hard to get your bearings in a new place. I broke that rule yesterday, just because the only other option was to travel at 5 o'clock in the morning, which would have meant leaving my hotel at 2 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, just wait for the afternoon flight, which was delayed, of course. And so, I didn't get through customs and immigration and all that until about 10 p.m. Then I go out to find Uber, good old Uber, and I have to run a gauntlet of potentially dangerous fake Uber drivers. I've had this scam run on me before, including in New York City, where some guy will come up and he's got a little lanyard with an Uber logo, and he wants to give you a ride, but he doesn't want to do it through the app kind of shit. Well, I've seen that one or two dudes in New York try that, and they have super predatory energy. It's just obvious, this is dangerous. This guy wants to rob me or chop me up and feed me to the sharks or something. So in New York, it's easy because I know where the Ubers are, and it's all right, screw you, man. Should I go talk to the cops about this? But here, it's there's a whole bunch of them, and they're really slick here. They dress up chauffeurs, and they're well coiffed, and they look trustworthy and all that. But when you get your consciousness to a certain level, it's you can just feel, bad vibes on people, and how people look on the outside is not necessarily how they are on the inside. And in fact, that's how you get conned. People, confidence, they gain your confidence. So never trust anyone just because they look good or they talk a good game. Just a side note. So anyway, I ran through there and I finally found the Uber stand, the legit Uber stand. And they surf here. And, my first sign that something was very off was when I put normally if you're going to a hotel, you just put the name of the hotel in, and, it'll come up and you tap it on Uber, and that's where they take you. Well, I had reserved a room, I thought, at a hotel, which is part of an international chain. It wasn't Hilton, but let's just say it was Hilton. And I put in Hilton, and normally it would start to list all the nearby Hiltons in the Uber app, but this one didn't. And I was that's strange. Maybe it's one of those where they just changed the branding to Hilton, 2 days ago, and it's not in the Uber app yet. So I, go back to the app where I made the reservation, and I get the actual street address. I put it in, I put that in, I call the driver. this dude shows up, and he's like a Venezuelan guy. And Venezuelans, I feel really sorry for them because, they're kind of the unwanted misfits of Latin America. They're not really welcome by a lot of people here in Peru or in Colombia, but these are people who were just escaping terrible situations. We start talking, and I put the address in, and we start going there, and it's clear to me that the area, as we are approaching the location of the supposed hotel, that this is not a good area. I mean, just because something is seaside doesn't mean it's, Martha's Vineyard or Miraflores. There are plenty of seaside communities that are full of really sketchy people, sailors, dock workers, commercial fishermen, prostitutes, criminals of all sorts, just shady people. And this was one of those areas. And it's now about coming up on 11 o'clock at night. And he rolls up to the address. And there is a hotel there, but it's not a Hilton. It's like a Hilltop hotel or something. And it's obviously, like a hooker hotel, a place where, dock workers take their whores or whatever. And it's 11 o'clock at night, and this is a shady area. It's dark. There's no street light, nothing. And I was like, oh, man. And I'm telling this guy, this isn't the hotel that I reserved. And, I'm trying to maintain composure and, never let him see you sweat and stuff. And I'm like, I can't stay here. I don't even know if this is the right place. And I'm like, what's a good neighborhood? He's like, Miraflores. So I'm like, okay. Go to another app, not the one that I reserved this hotel on. And I find a room in Miraflores. I reserve it, and I say, let's go. And at this point, we're way past Uber. Like, the Uber ride's over. And he's like, okay, I'll take you there. He can tell I'm a little freaked out because we're in this dangerous area. And he had to stop at a gas station in that area because he was almost out of gas. And I'm like, God, thank God we didn't run out of gas there. But this gas station is shady, dark. And they made us get out of the car while they pumped the gas, which I thought was kind of weird. And I was a little freaked out by that because I did not fit in that neighborhood. I was wearing a button-up shirt and nice sneakers. And, of course, all my stuff's in the car. And I've got my passport and whatever. But what choice do I have but to trust this guy? I mean, he's been through way worse than I'm going through right now. And I'm not going to, have a pity party in the back of his car. So he takes me to the place, and remember, we're off Uber now, and he's using Apple Maps, and he arrives where Apple Maps tells him the hotel is, but there's no hotel there. It's just an apartment building. This is after 11 o'clock at night, and I'm like, all right, this neighborhood looks safe. It looks nicer than the other one, but I take out Google Maps, and it turns out the hotel is actually about a block and a half away from where Apple Maps said it was. Apple Maps sucks. Apple everything is starting to suck. I hate this iPhone, for example. So we get to the hotel, and I had already told the guy, look, man, I don't have any Peruvian cash. I try to avoid cajeros and Latin American airports because they're surrounded by potentially dangerous people and it might set you up to be a target. So I was like, all right, I'll find a cajero in the morning. I just want to sleep. That was at the airport. I was like, I don't have any Peruvian cash. And he's like, oh, it's okay. We'll figure it out. So we get to the hotel, and before I even checked in, I was like, is there a cash machine around here? And they're like, they direct us to this nearby hospital. And remember, this is after 11 o'clock at night. We go to this hospital. The only door that's open is the emergency door. And this hospital was the nicest hospital I've ever seen anywhere in the world. I mean, it was beautiful. I mean, just beautiful. The emergency room was calm and clean, and the whole place was really nice. And they had cash machines, so I got some cash. I paid the guy. He was happy. Went to the hotel, got some sleep. It's a nice little place. But I still, when I woke up this morning, I didn't really know. I didn't have my bearings. So I went, ate breakfast, and then I looked at the map. And I'm like, okay. Seems like there's a little, malecón. So it turns out it's a pretty big malecón. kind of nearby, so I asked the lady at the front desk, can I walk to the Malecon from here? And she's like, yeah, sure, gives me a little map. And I go, ¿Está seguro? She's like, oh yeah, aquí es una zona segura. And I was like, all right, so that just brings it into really sharp focus about Latin America. It's like there are two different worlds. Zonas seguras y zonas, peligrosas. And this place, oh my gosh, much to my surprise, it's like really, really nice. It's like, the streets are clean, like Japan clean, like they shine. There's no garbage, no litter, nothing. Everything's very neat and tidy. There are all these lovely little, buildings and big buildings. Obviously, a lot of nice cars. It's a nice area, nice shops. Seems very prosperous. And I walked through the neighborhood, and it's a large area. Like in Medellin, I was in El Poblado, which is also a nice area, but there was, it's got a rough underbelly. There are beggars. There are, you got to kind of keep your head on a swivel there in Colombia, even in the nice areas. But here it's like, this feels like paradise. I'm like, wow, I could live here, This place is really nice. Like, I definitely had a tough time getting through the wormhole and traveling here, but I'm glad I did because it's beautiful and I really like it. Looking forward to trying some of the world-renowned Peruvian cuisine. There's a lot of Chinese influence here, but not like Chinatown China, just sort of like blended into Peruvian society. I'm going to have to look into that. I'm not sure what the history of that is. Or Japanese, Chinese, I don't know. There's some Asian influence here. And you can really feel it when you walk through these neighborhoods. It's like, I kind of felt like I was in Japan. It's so quiet too. Oh my gosh, is it quiet. Medellin is like, the whole city is in this, kind of steep little valley. And it just acts as like a guitar hole. Like this hotel where I was staying was nowhere near a major intersection, but it was noisy. Just the ambient roar of the city. It just seems to get captured in the valley. And this place is like quiet, really quiet. Which I like. So yeah, I don't know. I think I might end up retiring here. We'll see how it goes for the next few days. But the moral of the story is that to go places, you gotta travel, and to experience amazing, beautiful things, sometimes you gotta go through intense, uncomfortable things. And it's definitely better to have a little money in your pocket than not. So yeah, I'm going to sign off for now. The next episode will be on the topic of energy. What does this episode have to do with artificial versus natural intelligence? Well, I don't think artificial intelligence really goes through the same growing pains that natural intelligence does. It's like they get a new set of instructions, maybe reboot, and off they go. I don't think AIs experience those kind of traumatic events where you're freaking out, like, oh my God, I'm in the middle of this big city and not in a very good neighborhood, and I just got scammed, and I'm in somebody's car, I don't know this guy, but everything will work out. Just keep it rocking, Captain. Same way with sailing a boat. If you're the captain of a boat or a ship, you can't freak out when something goes wrong. You just have to deal with it, and that's how you get through the storm. So yeah, I don't know, maybe AIs have their own little storms, but I don't think so, because they don't have the visceral, physical, existential response that we do to certain situations. Anyway, really happy to be here. Hope you're having a great day, week, month, whatever it is, year. And I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening. I'm Charles Lennart. Bye. Okay, I'm going to add a PS here just before I forget. On my walk back from, the seaside, the Malecon, which is lovely. Oh my gosh, it's just like park after park after park. along this beautiful path that you can walk, and there are paths that go down to the actual beach, and people surfing. There was a guy with an ultralight flying around, and just flowers and trees, and again, so quiet compared to Medellin, so peaceful, so clean. And I'm walking back, and it's, when I'm traveling, I always try to get a place with breakfast included, and especially in Latin America, because you're going to get a pretty good breakfast compared to your average Hilton Garden Inn or whatever in the U.S. It's like you get a good breakfast here, and then so you eat a late breakfast, and then you're not hungry again till 3-4 in the afternoon. Eat a late lunch, early dinner, and you only had to pay for one meal for the day, and you can afford to eat better that way. You don't feel guilty about it. It's not like you're hopping from street taco to street taco or whatever, like a lot of people do when they're traveling. They just eat cheap stuff, and that's how you get sick. But anyway, so I passed this little place, which was like a bento shop, like bento boxes, like in Japan. And I thought, let's try this. Because one thing I've never had in Latin America, and frankly in New York City, is good Japanese food. Japanese food is really unique. It's got a certain palette of, sweet, savory, sour, spicy flavors, and it's very unique. Like you know it when you taste it. You're like, oh yeah, this is Japanese. And it's really hard to find that outside of Japan, but whatever. I thought I'll try this place. I'll get a bento box, and I did, and oh my gosh, it was good. It was the best bento box I've ever had outside of Japan. And the guy running the place, looked slightly Japanese. And I thought, well, this is a good opportunity to get some of the skinny here on what this, Asian influence is. And by the way, the people here in Miraflores are so good looking, so well dressed, educated, healthy looking, and I don't know, to me, the women here are a lot more attractive than the ones in Colombia, even though Colombian women are, also beautiful in their own way. I guess if you like big butts and big boobs and stuff. But here they're more, they kind of have, there's a little bit of an Asian influence. So anyway, this guy, I asked him after I eat, I was like, wow, that was fantastic. I was like, can you tell me what, why are there so many Chinese and Japanese restaurants here? Like, what's the deal? And he proudly told me, his that back in the 1950s and 60s, after the Second World War, Peru opened its doors to Chinese and Japanese workers, and they came here in droves and worked the mines and built lives for themselves and integrated into society. And his own grandparents were Japanese, and his grandmother taught him how to cook Japanese food, and blah 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 blah. Anyway, the quality of the food itself was excellent. The seafood was amazing, and the dumplings, these were like some of the best dumplings I've ever eaten in my life. And it was a proper bento box where you eat it and you're full, but not like stuffed. I just feel nourished and full and satisfied. And so anyway, I guess that's what explains the Asian, to me, rather obvious, like Asian influence here. Which is really different from Mexico, because Mexico had the same sort of thing, but like 100 years before. So after the Intercontinental Railroad was built in the U.S., which, if you know your history, was largely done with Chinese, coolie labor. Those people were kicked to the curb, and a lot of them migrated south to Mexico, the Baja Peninsula specifically, to work the mines, and they were, let's just say, not welcomed in Mexico. They were fully subsumed by the Mexican culture, which, it's interesting. Mexico has a lot of, what's the word they use? Starts with a P. I want to say prototype, but that's not it. Phenotypes, yeah. So in Mexico, there are a lot of different phenotypes. It's a very genetically diverse place, and Like, for example, people from Guerrero look like African. They're like really black, but they have curly hair, but they're Mexican, you know. And in Baja, you know, between Tijuana and Cabo, there are a lot of people who are like, they look Asian, but, you know, they're not Asian. At least not culturally. And so, yeah, but it's interesting here because it seems like the Asian part of the culture survived somehow. The good parts, you know, the food, the clean streets. I just want to say, like, this area, Miraflores, is very large. Like, I've walked quite a bit. It's a large area, and it's like there's a lot of vigilancia here. There's like these dudes that they're not cops, but they have uniforms, and they like seem to hang out on street corners and just make sure everything's cool. And the police patrol in a very friendly way. And, you know, it's not like in Colombia where they have like armed guards everywhere. And, you know, it's very chill. I really, really like this place. A lot more than I expected to. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm going to have to start looking into real estate and immigration and stuff like that, because I think Peru might be my place. I just need to meet my people, and I'm sure they're around. So, and I just wanted to add, you know, to the last part of, well, the first part of this. Thank God I speak Spanish, you know, if not fluently, at least competently, because if I hadn't, I would have been really screwed last night. You know, the driver didn't speak any English at all, and so I guess that's like a travel tip if you're going to travel to Latin America. Number one, you know, arrive where you're arriving during daylight if you can. Number two, at least learn a little bit of Spanish, because not every place is like Cancun or Cabo, where the only Spanish you really need to know is "Más cerveza, por favor. Señorita, más cerveza, por favor." Hey, look, everybody, I can speak Spanish. Ugh, I hate those people. So, like, here, it's like, yeah, it definitely helps to enjoy the culture if you can converse with people in their native tongue. Because not everybody speaks English, especially in resort areas and actual areas where people live. So, just word to the wise, you know, spend 3 hours on the plane with a phrase book, you know, at least learning the basic phrases you need to at least be polite, you know how to say hello, my name is, nice to meet you, which way is it, right, left, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, you know, learn how to count a little bit, that helps. And anyway, I'm gonna enjoy an afternoon snack and perhaps even a siesta. This room is very comfortable. Okay, ciao for now. I'm Charles Lenart. Thanks again for listening. Bye.